The New York Yankees win yet another series. Luke Voit returns and provides a huge spark for the lineup. And how about Gary Sanchez? We have a lot to talk about on this brand new episode of the Pinstripe Talk podcast, which begins right now.
You are listening to the Pinstripe Talk podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Pinstripe Talk podcast, powered to you by Delahanty Media. I'm your host, Nick Delahanty. Another exciting series for the Yankees. Yankees go on to win 2 out of 3 against the Kansas City Royals. You know, obviously, we all wanted them to sweep, especially with the series being at home. Regardless, the Yankees take care of business, get back on track, winning the second and third game of the series to ultimately take home the series as a whole. The Yankees now have won 7 of their last 9. Since they got swept by the Red Sox, have won 9 of their last 14. So, is this the tale of saying the New York Yankees are back? Hold your horses there. I'll give my take toward the end of the broadcast. However, we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, we want to recap the series as a whole. But there are a couple of guys that we want to talk about in closer detail. Aaron Judge, Luke Voit, who returned from injury over the week. This was his first series back. Gary Sanchez, who has been an absolute monster as of late. And then on the pitching side of things, we have some guys to talk about. Michael King, Jameson Taillon, Aroldis Chapman, Chad Green, to name a few. So we have a booked schedule for this one as we prepare for the Yankees to take on the Boston Red Sox in Fenway Park this upcoming weekend. Before we get the show going, reminder, follow us on social media at Pinstripe Talk ND on Twitter, my personal account at Nick Delahanty. Our show is also available on Facebook by looking up Pinstripe Talk Podcast. And of course, you could follow our brand, the Delahanty Media brand, by searching up the name on any social media presence. So on Facebook, on Instagram, you name it, the show is there available for you, and as well as our brand. And of course, check out all of the good things that are going on with the Delahanty Media brand by going to our website, www.delahantymedia.com. The Pinstripe Talk podcast is available on all podcasting platforms, so whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, you name it, the show's there available for you. Make sure you subscribe to the show on whatever podcasting platform you listen on so you get up-to-the-minute notes and details of when our new content is released. While you're doing that, make sure you rate and review our show as well. All that feedback goes a long way in helping promote our show. Give us those 5 stars. I have an Aaron Judge Jedi bobblehead next to me. He is shaking his head yes. 5 stars and some great comments. We love the feedback that you already give us. If you haven't done so already, we would appreciate if you took the time to do so. Now, let's not make you wait any longer. Let's jump right into this series. A big one for the Yankees, coming off their last 2 series where they picked up victories. You know, you want to continue that trend. Winning series is a big thing, especially for a team that hasn't been as consistent throughout the beginning of the season. And we're getting to that point where the Yankees need to start racking up wins and doing so in a big fashion. And what better way to help them with that cause than getting back Luke Voit, such an integral part of their lineup. He is back. Remember, after missing the start of the season, Voit was limited to just 12 games upon his return, so having him back in the lineup is definitely a huge boost. And during the series, you're going to see that Voit had a major impact right away. Let's jump to the bottom half of the first inning in this one. First pitch that Voit sees, he hits it over the left field fence, makes it 1-0 Yankees. Bottom half of the second, you get a home run from Kyle Higashioka, who was starting this game due to the fact that Garrett Cole was on the mound. Yankees take a 2-0 lead. It didn't take long for the Royals to catch back up. They score a run in the third, and then a O'Hearn homer in the fourth tied things up at 2, and it would be silent till the bottom half of the 7th inning. Voit, who we mentioned before, reaches base. He hits a triple, his first of the year. The Yankees decide to pinch run for him, given that he's just coming back from the injury, and a few pitches later, Tyler Wade, the pinch runner, scores on a wild pitch. Yankees take a 3-2 lead. Now, after Cole went the first 7, the Yankees turned the game over to Jonathan Loaisiga, who has been phenomenal this year. Unfortunately, it was not Loaisiga's day. He got roughed up a bit. Let's take you through some of the key points here. Top of the 8th, like we mentioned, you have the tying run on base, the go-ahead run on base. O'Hearn hits a ground ball up the middle. Tyler Wade gets to the ball, makes a errant throw on the run. It takes a weird hop. DJ LeMahieu unable to haul it in. Luckily, it hits the runner because it would have scored another run. That tied your ball game up at 3. The next batter, Gerard Dyson, with a runner on first and third, hits a ground ball to Wade, who's playing in, trying to cut off the run at home. He clenches, double pumps, and doesn't get the runner at home, which was Carlos Santana. A misfortune for the Yankees. They go down 4-3. The Royals were not done, as then they got a single from Dozier and a single from Taylor. And right there, it was 6-3. Loaisiga, like I said, did not have it. He only pitched 2/3 of an inning, allowed 4 runs on 5 hits. He did strike out 2, but just wasn't your typical Jonathan Loaisiga in this one. Bottom half of the 8th inning, Yankees try to rally. DJ LeMahieu hits a home run to right field, scoring Gardner. It would be 6-5 at that point. Unfortunately, Yankees unable to score again. Royals go on to win the first game of this set 6-5. We mentioned Cole earlier. He had a good outing, only allowed 2 runs on 3 hits, struck out 6 through 108 pitches. His season ERA is now at 2.33. The Yankees got what they needed out of Cole. Unfortunately, the offense kind of let him down in this one. They only tallied 9 hits. They struck out 10 times as a team. They were 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position, left 13 guys on base. It was a game where the Royals were trying to hand them a win, walking 8 batters. Yes, they walked 8 batters, and the Yankees could not capitalize. Very frustrating way to start the series, but, the only thing you can do is look ahead to game 2 and 3 and hope that you can get back into the series. The bulk of the offensive production came from the top 3 in the order. LeMahieu in the leadoff spot had 2 hits. Judge had 2 hits. He's been on a little slide. We're going to talk about him later on in the show. And then in his first game back, Voit was 2 for 3 with the home run. He also did walk in this one. All 3 of those aforementioned players had a walk as well. If you're looking for another standout contributor, Gio Urshela was 2 for 4 on the day. He would leave the game after he was hit by a pitch in the shin area, something that the Yankees have been very cautious with, but nonetheless, it was just not the Yankees' day. Did they deserve to win this one? No, especially given that the Royals were trying to hand them the game. Things like that do happen, but of course, you have to turn the page to the next day. And that's what the Yankees were able to do in a wild roller coaster game. Yankees go on to win 6-5, but it was not your average pretty game, to say the least. Another game where the Royals gave the Yankees a ton, and I mean a ton, of opportunities to win it. In this one, they walked 11 New York Yankee hitters. Yes, 11. I did not stutter on that one. They walked more Yankees than they struck out. And the Yankees barely went on to win this one. Let's kind of take you through the way this game went about, shall we? Michael King on the mound for the Yankees. We all know how bad he's been in the first inning. Well, again, the Royals were able to get to him in the first. O'Hearn hits a homer to right, scoring Perez. Makes it 2-0 Royals right away. Nothing happens until the bottom half of the 4th inning. Clint Frazier doubles to deep right field, scoring Andujar and Stanton. That tied your game up at 2. Again, we had another silent pace here until the 8th inning. In the top of the 8th, Carlos Santana hits a home run to left field. The Royals take a 3-2 lead. That Royals lead would not last for long as Rougned Odor hit a home run to center field, scoring Frazier, puts the Yankees up 4-3. Yankees turn the game over to Aroldis Chapman, and here's where things get sticky. Chapman, clearly struggling on the mound, walks 2 batters. He ends up not having to face Carlos Santana as Aaron Boone decided to intentionally walk him. And what does Chapman do? The next batter, Rivero, the catcher from the Royals, he ends up walking on 4 pitches, a guy who did not have a major league hit until Game 3 of this series. The Royals take the lead, and then they added another run on the next batter in O'Hearn on an infield single. So a couple of bloop hits and misfortune. Chapman obviously didn't have it. He was very frustrated in the dugout. Nonetheless, the Yankees had yet another deficit to climb back from. Did they have enough magic in the tank to do so? And on this day, yes, they did. The game is tied by who else? Gary Sanchez, home run to left field, a screaming line drive. I didn't know if it was out. I didn't know if he had enough height on it, but it barely got over the left field fence. Tied the game up at 5. Couple batters later, with Tyler Wade on second, Luke Voit plays hero as he hits a screaming line drive off the top of the left field fence, barely getting out, scoring Wade, and the ball game was over. The Yankees win in walk-off fashion. They end up winning, like I said, this one 6-5. Let's go back to the pitching side before we get into the offense. Michael King pitched into the 5th inning. Aaron Boone tried to get him through the 5th inning. Unfortunately, King ended up loading the bases with 2 outs. Chad Green comes in, and he was fantastic. Green ends up going 2 1/3, did not allow a run, did not allow a hit, did not allow a walk, struck out Arroyo in the process. He was fantastic. Both Britton and Chapman had their struggles. Britton let up a run in the 8th, and of course, we know the blown save from Chapman in the 9th, allowing the 2 runs. He ended up getting the win. You know, you could say what you want about it, but he ends up getting the win and comes out unscathed. Although he didn't deserve it, you know, the Yankees definitely rallied and picked him up when it was needed. Offensively, they left 10 guys on base again, but they were a little bit better with runners in scoring position, going 2 for 6. We talked about the big blows, Odor's home run, and then you get the Sanchez home run, and of course, the big hit from Voit to end the ball game. Yankees had 7 hits. They had 7 different guys come up with those hits, but it seemed like they had a lot more guys on base due to walks. You had 2 walks from Torres, 2 from Clint Frazier, and then another 3 from Giancarlo Stanton. So, yes, it was not pretty. There was a lot of situations in this ballgame where the Yankees coughed up a lead or had to play comeback, but nonetheless, they figured it out and they picked up a major win as they had one more game in this series to look at to avoid losing a series at home against a team that they're obviously better than. And you don't want to be rude about that, but let's call a spade here. The Yankees have a better roster. They're the better team. Whether they're struggling or not, you can make the case that when they're on the field, especially at Yankee Stadium, the Yankees should win the series more times than none. So, to win this game, to battle back, maybe they didn't deserve to win this one, but they take the win. Nobody's going to complain about it. And you look to Game 3 and you just hope that the Yankees offense could do enough to give Jameson Taillon some run support and come home with a series victory. To be completely honest with you all, I think this is the first time all year that the Yankees put together a convincing win. And by far, I think it was the Yankees' best overall performance that I could remember. And I could be wrong. If you could think of another one, please feel free to tweet me and let me know. But watching these games, I could have just got lost in the shuffle because how much of a roller coaster this season has been. But this game to me was one of the more relaxing games that I've watched all year. And that's because the Yankees offense was able to put up 8 runs on 13 hits and got started right away. Bottom half of the first inning, Aaron Judge hits a home run to right field. Oppo Taco at that. Yankees are up 1-0. They had a run on a Rudneg Odor single. Infield single at that to second base. It was 2-0 after the end of 1. Yankees did a really good job that inning hitting against the shift. You saw a Gary Sanchez single that, you know, if they're playing normal is a ground out. Odor beating the shift. Judge going opposite field. So you have to be really impressed with what they were able to do there. Yankees were not done though. Bottom half of the second, you get an Aaron Judge single to left, scoring Wade, 3-0 Yanks. Bottom of the third, they add another run on a Luke Voit home run to right. Voit, coming back from the injured list, has been really hot considering that, you know, it takes some guys some time to get back acclimated to big league pitching, but this series, Voit proved that he's ready to go. The Royals added a run in the 5th, but that's all they would get. Yankees tack on some more, a big 3-run homer in the bottom of the 6th from Gary Sanchez. That really felt like the final dagger. It felt like the Royals had no life to come back in this one. And then in the bottom of the 8th, you get a Giancarlo Stanton single to left, scoring the aforementioned Judge. 8-1 is your score. 8-1 is your final. Yankees go on to take 2 of 3 from this series. Before we go into the pitching, we're going to go back to the offense for a minute. Top of the Yankees order, and by top, I mean 1 through 6 in their order, accounted for all 13 of their hits. They had 3 guys with 3 hits apiece. We're going to go from the bottom up. Odor had 3 hits and 4 at-bats in the 6th spot. In the 4-hole, Giancarlo Stanton had 3 hits in 5 at-bats. And then we talked about Judge, his 3-for-3 day. He had 2 walks. A really great day from Judge. We're going to get to him in a little bit. Gary Sanchez also had a multi-hit game. He was 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored and 3 RBIs. So a collective offensive performance from the Yankees. They get a lot of production out of the top half of the order. The bottom half of Frazier, Gardner, and Wade did nothing, but nonetheless, the Yankees were able to get a lead and really stomp on the Royals' throat. And it was one of those games where they came out of the gate early and said, we're better than you, and we're going to prove it. On the pitching side of things, Taillon had arguably his best start as a Yankee, picks up his 2nd win on the year. He goes 6 1/3, his 2nd longest start as a Yankee. He allowed just 1 run on 5 hits, striking out 6 through just under 100 pitches. Nestor Cortes came in for the final 2 2/3. And again, Cortes was really good as well. Yankees seem to be finding these gems with these pitchers, and Cortes is just another example of that. Back to Taillon for a minute. If you watched him in the beginning of the year, it seemed like he was just a fastball and slider type of pitcher. Well, he kind of went with a 3-pitch mix in this one, mostly throwing 4-seamers. 43 of his 96 pitches were 4-seamers. The Royals were 1 for 9 against those type of pitches. His curveball, through 21 of those, the Royals were 1 for 5 against them, and 17 sliders, and the Royals had a little bit of success against that. They were 2 for 4 with those type of pitches. We did see his sinker 9 times. If you remember the last batter he faced, he hit. That was one of them, and then he threw 6 total changeups, which the Royals were 0 for 3 against. So you like to see the different pitch selection, and David Cohn noted it in the broadcast. It just felt like he was going back to his old style with the Pirates, which was good to see, using more pitches, relying on those said pitches, and not being so focused on throwing just 2 pitches, and really being more open and willing to try different things and not relying on the sinker so much, and really using that fastball that does have some life to it. So brilliant job by Taillon. Really nice job out of the pen by Cortes, and the offense was, in fact, incredible. Yankees go on to win, like I said, 8-1. They win the series, and now we have some notables that we want to discuss as part of this series recap. I think the easy place to start is Luke Voit. In the 12 games that he played when he returned from the first injury and before the second injury, hit just 1 home run and really struggled at the plate. However, Voit came back and had a really nice weekend. You can make the case that he should have had 4 homers in this series, but nonetheless, his energy just brings such a spark to this team. So it's really nice to see him back. Really nice to have him into the equation. And he's just a guy that, he's going to bring the energy. He's going to really help your team out. And you can't state enough just how important he is to the Yankees' success going forward this season. So hopefully he can stay healthy, because when he's healthy, really does help the Yankees out tremendously. Aaron Judge, after having a really bad game 2 in this one, he was 0 for 5, had a couple of strikeouts, 4 to be exact. Judge bounces back with a great performance in game 3. We mentioned his 3 for 3 day, had the home run, a double. If you notice, recently, pitchers have been trying to get him to expand the zone, and he's been doing that. The previous 10 games, he was striking out a ton. But what Judge did in this one, he was sitting on the breaking pitches, but he wasn't swinging at the bad ones. And what I mean by that was, he was swinging at the ones that ended up in the zone, or the ones that he can do damage with. In this one, all 3 of his hits came off sliders. The one that really stood out to me was the slider he hit for a single in the second inning. It was a low pitch, of course, reached out a little bit, but he was still able to power it into left field just deep enough to score Wade. And that's when you could tell he's starting to get back on track, and that might be a good sign of things to come for Aaron Judge. Speaking of offensive hitters that have been crushing the ball, Gary Sanchez. Yes, Yankee fans have been ready to give up on Sanchez, and trust me, I've had my moments where I've second-guessed what they were doing with him. I think that it came up in everybody's mind what was going on with him, and trying to just figure out, is he really a long-term solution behind the plate? Well, after making some great adjustments in the cage with Marcus Timms and the Yankees hitting coaches, Sanchez has been on fire. And if you look at his season numbers, you can make the case that he's been the best offensive catcher in the league this entire season. A couple of weeks ago, Yankee fans wanted Kyle Higashioka to start every day. What a quick turnaround from those days. Gary is proving that he belongs in the everyday lineup, and that's a good thing. He's playing with a fire, and you could tell he's locked in at the plate, going opposite field, hitting the ball hard, finding holes. You know, sometimes the game of baseball is a lot of luck, trying to just find the holes. You could hit the ball 100 miles per hour, but if you hit it at somebody, that doesn't show up in the box score. But Sanchez has been incredible. He has put together a really nice stretch of games. And for the Yankees' long-term success, they need him to be effective because he makes the lineup that much better. It's a proven fact. So, you know, it's great to see him thriving. It seems like he's having a lot of fun. And you just hope that it continues moving forward. Now to some guys who are struggling a little bit. Aroldis Chapman. His last stretch of games have not been pretty by any means. His last 5 1/3, which is 7 games for him, he has an 11.81 ERA, has walked 5 batters opposed to striking out 6, and opponents are hitting .462 against him. And one of the things that they were talking about on the S broadcast, and I believe it was David Cohn, so I'm going to credit him. I could be wrong. But Cohn was saying how he basically abandoned the splitter that was so effective for him at the beginning of the year. And that's something that is a concern, especially given that they're talking about the fingertip and noting that he has something going on with that. So is he hurt and trying to pitch through it? Is it just one of those stretches from Chapman that we know that he loses control? Maybe, and I don't want to be somebody who insinuates this, but maybe it has something to do with the whole substance issue where, you know, maybe he's not getting a great grip on the ball and that's why he's not throwing a pitch like the sinker or the splitter and trying to find a way to make it work without using that stuff. That's all speculation, but it has to be something that's going through your mind. If I'm a betting man, I would say Chapman's going to find his way back. It's just a matter of when he will. And I think right now it concerns Yankee fans, but you have to look at the bigger picture and realize that eventually we expect this guy to be the dominant closer he was at the beginning of the season. To kind of counteract how bad Chapman's been, Chad Green has been incredible. Michael King, after his start in Game 2, actually said he texted his mother and said, "I love Chad because Chad's been incredible." His last 9 innings has not allowed a run, only allowed a walk, struck out 10, opponents hitting 133 against him. Remember, he pitched at 2 1/3 in Game 2. He has been incredible. Chad Green, an asset to the Yankees bullpen, and who knows, you know, he might be their most valuable piece out there for the long haul. Yes, Britton's good, and you hope that Chapman's going to be good as well, but it may be guys like Chad Green and Loizaga that, at the end of the day, are going to make the big difference for the Yankees down the stretch. And who can forget Nestor Cortez? Seems like every time he comes in, he does something good. The Yankees have a tremendous amount of depth out of the bullpen, and it's really nice to see. And Cortez, a guy that wasn't even considered for the opening day roster, a guy that they brought back after his first stint with them, he comes back and he's making his presence known. And finally, Michael King. This guy's allergic to the first inning, man. It's incredible. After that, the guy's pretty good. In his 5 innings, in his 5 starts in the first inning, he's allowed 8 runs on 9 hits, walking 3, allowing 2 home runs. It has not been good. Not good at all. But after that, he seems to really settle down. Here's my suggestion. Maybe go to an opener for him. Avoid him pitching into, that first inning. Let him go out in the bullpen, come in for a couple of innings, and completely avoid it. That may be the recipe that may work for the Yankees. I don't know. I don't know how to look at it, but does it hurt to really give it a try? I don't think it would hurt because he's been effective otherwise. It's just that first inning. Similar to Tyone having troubles in the 5th inning and beyond, King's been having trouble in that first inning. But you got to be happy with what Tyone did in Game 3, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come. Just the second time as a Yankee in 14 starts that Tyone went past the 6th inning. So a good sign. Hopefully it's a positive sign that will lead to more success in the near future. Now, we all know what's coming up this weekend. This is a big upcoming series for the New York Yankees as they head to Fenway Park to take on the Boston Red Sox. At this time, they are just 4 games out in the American League East Division. They are creeping up the standings. And in the beginning of the show, I mentioned that I was going to talk about if I thought the Yankees were back. I think they're on the right track. However, I would not say they are officially back at this point. Okay? I am going to tell you this, and this is my honest thought on the matter. I will tell you that the New York Yankees are back if, and only if, they are able to go in to Fenway this weekend and convincingly win 2 out of 3 games. Yes, convincingly win 2 out of 3 games. I need them to prove that they're the team that we think they are. And I think that this weekend could be a really big statement after the Red Sox came into Yankee Stadium a couple weeks back and completely punched the Yankees in the mouth and took 2 out of 3 games. So let's look at our probable pitching matchup, shall we? Friday night, 7:10 first pitch, Domingo Germán against Martin Perez. Saturday's game, you have Jordan Montgomery against former Yankee Nathan Eovaldi. That game will be on Fox. Oh, that'll be a joy to watch. And then Sunday, no, we are not on Sunday Night Baseball. Thank goodness it's a 1 o'clock start. Garrett Cole Day, as he is opposed by Eduardo Rodriguez. If you're the Yankees, I don't think the pitching could have lined up better for you. I think if you're asking Aaron Boone right now, those are the 3 guys you want on the mound for this one. And of course, if you can win one of the first 2 games, you have the comfort in knowing that Cole is on the bump for Game 3 of the series. But of course, we'll have a lot more coverage for you as time goes on. And of course, we're going to have a Red Sox recap show. And we'll look ahead to when the Yankees will host the Los Angeles Angels this week. And we'll see Shohei Ohtani possibly on the mound. Should be a really interesting one. In case you missed it at the beginning of the show, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Pinstripe Talk ND. My personal account at Nick Delahanty. Find us on Facebook by searching up Pinstripe Talk Podcast. And of course, follow the Delahanty Media brand on Instagram and Facebook by looking up Delahanty Media. Our podcast, available on all podcasting platforms. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, you name it, the show is there available for you. And of course, support our other shows on the brand. You have the Fenway Focus podcast, you have the All About America's Team podcast, and we have a lot more in store for you. As always, my name is Nick Delahanty, and I'm the proud host of the Pinstripe Talk podcast, powered to you by Delahanty Media. It's a big weekend, folks. Got to get your Yankee gear on. And always remember, my famous way of closing out the show, let's go Yankees. Hopefully we have a positive recap show for you at the end of the weekend. And of course, win, lose, or draw, you know we'll be here to discuss it. Until next time, take care, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of the Pinstripe Talk podcast. We'll talk to you very soon.